Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do?
Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country.
You know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic.
I just had a couple things. I mean, I was in the White House in 2009, 2010. I was working for Vice President Biden. I wasn't involved directly in the H1N1 response, but I lived through it as a White House staffer. And what I will say about it is a bunch of really talented, really great people working on it, and we did every possible thing wrong. And it's, 60 million Americans got H1N1 in that period of time, and it's just purely a fortuity that this isn't one of the great mass casualty events in American history. Had nothing to do with us doing anything right. It just had to do with luck.
If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives.
And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country.
The worst case scenario is between 1.6 million and 2.2 million deaths. That's the projection if you do nothing. If we do things together well, almost perfectly, we could get in the range of 100,000 to 200,000 fatalities.
1 in 5 businesses closed.
Across the country, governors and mayors are the ones who have closed businesses, and the 10th Amendment guarantees they will be the ones to reopen them.
And here's the thing. On January 28th, the vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence.
As of today, there are nearly 9,700 cases in China, with more than 200 deaths.
That it is airborne.
The WHO stance, the CDC stance are supported by the actual observation that this infection seems to spread mostly from one person to 2 to 3 other people in most of the studies, whereas airborne infections, where that's the main mode of transmission, usually spread to a much greater number of people, like 8 to 12. So it still looks like this infection is primarily spread from an infected person, and you have to be in fairly close contact to them or in contact with their secretions by touching your hands and then touching your face.
That it will affect young people.
Here are the survival rates for different age groups, the best estimates at present. These are government numbers. So from ages 0 to 19, the survival rate, if you get the infection, is 99.997%.
And they knew what was happening, and they didn't tell you.
To date, we have confirmed 6 cases of this novel virus in the United States. Most recent case had no travel history to China.
Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. This briefing from President Trump's novel coronavirus task force aims to do 2 things. We want to provide you with an update on the novel coronavirus, and we want to provide the latest on the extensive, aggressive actions that the President has taken to keep Americans safe and respond to the outbreak.
The President said it was a hoax.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. They're politicizing it. We did one of the great jobs. You say, how's President Trump doing? They go, oh, not good, not good. And this is their new hoax.
You were down in Charleston last night using the word hoax when talking about Democrats. Somebody now is dead from this. Do you regret that kind of talk?
No. Hoax referring to the action that they take to try and pin this on somebody because we've done such a good job. The hoax is on them. I'm not talking about what's happening here. I'm talking what they're doing. That's the hoax. That's just a continuation of the hoax, whether it's the impeachment hoax or the Russia hoax. This is what I'm talking about. Certainly not referring to this. How could anybody refer to this? This is very serious stuff. But the way they refer to it, because these people have done such an incredible job, and I don't like it when they are criticizing these people, and that's the hoax.
And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan.
The president arrived armed with a plan, aiming to slow the spread of the disease, a plan that will alter daily life for more than 330 million Americans.
They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing.
Today we're announcing a new partnership with private sector to vastly increase and accelerate our capacity to test for the coronavirus. We want to make sure that those who need a test can get a test very safely, quickly, and conveniently.
For administration of the vaccine and making sure that it will be free for all.
The Trump administration unveiling its plan to distribute a coronavirus vaccine as quickly as possible, and also its goal that no one will have to pay out of pocket for a vaccine.
That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country.
The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about.
Joe Biden's campaign fending off allegations of plagiarism today after revelations that the former vice president's brand new climate change policy plan copied language directly from multiple liberal activist groups and a news site. It was a similar allegation that helped sink Biden's 1988 presidential campaign.
And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that.
But 2 days after the CDC issued its social distancing guideline, Biden was out there telling people it was safe to vote in the then Florida, Illinois, and Arizona primaries on March 15th because they cared more about sealing up the primary election than they did the lives of actual voters. And as we have covered here on the show, multiple poll workers in many of those states contracted coronavirus as a result of those elections, and some even lost their lives.
And frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
The president did help New York. He sent the Army Corps of Engineers to build the Javits Center. Thank you very much. He sent 4,000 ventilators. Thank you very much. The Army Corps of Engineers came and helped us build alternative facilities. Thank you very much. So he was of assistance. There's no doubt. Sent the U.S. Navy ship Comfort. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
So did you get a sense that he was or wasn't playing this down?
No, I didn't. I didn't get any sense that he was distorting anything. I mean, in my discussions with him, they were always straightforward about the concerns that we had. We related that to him. And when he would go out, I'd hear him discussing the same sort of things. So I may not be tuned in to the right thing that they're talking about, but I didn't really see any discrepancies between what he told us and what we told him and what he ultimately came out publicly and said.
For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it, absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
The fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality is that we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the end of this year. and it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is just, it's just unacceptable.
A situation where she had a police department when she was there that in fact was abusing people's rights.
The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there.
I look, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.